to really facilitate a conversation. I have a lot of questions, of course, but I would like to make this into a situation where the public could ask the question. I happened to see the film in Venice Film Festival, and I saw them again in Abu Dhabi and Qatar. I haven't read the book. I mean, I think what strikes me is I know Julian as an artist, and I think what has always impressed me as an artist myself, who constantly trying to renew and reinvent myself, I was really impressed by how he was able to cross the boundary from visual arts into cinema with such a fluency. And I have to say, I have seen every one of his films, and I think he's a remarkable filmmaker. So I came to see this film with huge curiosity, and I guess to his compliment, the question of risk-taking and reinventing himself, I think he's done it with this film in a way that this is not just another film, but it's an extremely political film. And I think, particularly as a Jewish American, to make a film that touches on the complexity of the Palestinian-Israeli plight and the question of women in that region is one that hardly even the Arab filmmakers and artists and critics can get a grasp of. But for him to come as an outsider, to really address this, of course, working with Rula, and so it sort of raises important questions, and I wish you had all seen the film so we could have been addressing the same questions. But how do you really go about addressing the issues of the cliches and the issues of that you're really reaching an audience that are not Western, but also the native Arab Muslim community? How could you, rightfully so, really reach the deep complexity of all these issues? And I wonder, and I think it's an immense task, as an Iranian artist for so long has been dealing with Iranian issues and politics, and the question of women simply living outside of Iran, I feel handicapped by this distance. So it's immensely interesting for me that you, the risk taker, was able to do that, and now you have to see the film and we can discuss in detail.
I think we can, we can discuss what he read, what we talked about a little bit, because you can have a hint of what is the story about. And I think Julian is not an outsider in a way.
No, but I was, it's not a criticism.
No, I understand.
I'm a tourist. It's true. I am a tourist.
I just wanted to get my question, because really I was just making that context to ask the question from him. What compelled you to actually, I've seen all your films, and there's something consistent which is all about the biographies, which I really love, the way that he goes about biographies. What I would like to ask Julian is, how was it like this experience of knowing that you were making a deeply political film, and that that this was not like your other films? So can you just sort of expand on that experience? That's all.
I'd love to. First of all, I never thought I was going to be a movie director. I'm a painter, and that's what I am. I'm still a painter. I actually came back from the Art Gallery of Ontario today, where I went to see my show that's been up there since September, called Julian Schnabel Art and Film. And so even in 1975, I made a painting called Pool Painting for Norma Desmond. Or in 1978, made a painting called Acatoni for Pasolini for his first film, or Shoeshine for Vittorio De Sica. So I've always been thinking about movies as they were. I remember there's a quote from Joseph von Sternberg when somebody looked at Blue Angel and said, well, this doesn't seem anything like reality. And he said, of course not, it's much better than reality. But there's a part of my brain that is a storyteller, and I always loved the movies, and I think that I exchanged my own personal memories and my childhood for a fictive childhood, whether it be the film Tom Thumb, where Russ Tamblyn plays Tom Thumb, or Gulliver's Travels, even the cartoon version where you've got this beautifully drawn guy that's a giant some places and is a midget or a miniature in other places. Jean-Michel Basquiat died, and a friend of mine, he was a friend of mine, and somebody came to interview me about him. There weren't a lot of movie directors coming over and asking me what I thought about anything, and I thought I could help him because I knew the subject, and I realized he was a tourist, and he couldn't do it, so I rewrote the script and directed the movie myself. I lent my name to it, and as they say in the Crucible, it's my name. Now, I didn't intend to be a movie director, but when I did that, and I had a lot of friends who were actors, actors like to paint. Dennis Hopper liked to paint. Gary Oldman, Chris Walken, all liked to paint. And they knew my work, and so somehow and I was very interested in the story of Reinaldo Renas, and I loved the book Before Nightfall. So Hemingway liked Cuba, and I kind of was tired of Florida, and I thought that I wanted to go to Cuba too. But I found there that there was a kind of freedom for diplomats and for tourists that was not available to the citizens of that country. And so in a way, I think that movie also was quite a political film. I didn't want the right or the left. I didn't want to be the banner child of the right or the left. I was in Cuba, and Alfredo Guevara asked me why I didn't want to make a movie about Alejo Carpentier. And I guess Ronaldo was an embarrassment to everybody, but what a great writer. And so I just ended up this part of my brain that's a storyteller. And when I read Rula's book, and when I say I'm a tourist, I really am, I needed to take her with me there. I needed her to take me to East Jerusalem. She speaks Hebrew, she speaks Arabic. I needed to know what would be in a Palestinian girl's room who was 15 years old. I walked into a refugee camp or a place where we were going to shoot something that was something that she had seen, and the production designer gave me a proposition, and she looked at it and said, well, that looks like a 5-star hotel. I said, well, what would be in this lot? She said, nothing. Okay, take everything out of there. And usually it's not a democratic activity being a director, but I felt like I needed to share of every frame, every moment. I wanted to know what she thought, if she thought it was real. And to the extent that when there was a scene where her mother committed suicide, and the girl who played her mother told me 5 days before we were shooting that she didn't swim. The woman swam out to sea. Gave her lessons for 5 days, but in the moment where this had to happen, Rula actually put on the same dress, got in the water, and swam out to sea. So, when people say, you're a great actor, or about actors, I don't think they're acting. I think they are responding to what's happening. I think the best actors, the best writers, are the best listeners, somehow. And I think that, for me, as an American Jewish person who grew up in New York City, whose mother was the president of Hadassah, who had always looked at and believed in this utopian, democratic, possible Jewish world that was a good place, I felt like my mother would be very disappointed with the way things were going over there, and I felt like my mother had a lot in common with Hind Husseini, and basically the notion of being privileged, and then thinking, okay, I have this privilege, it's my responsibility to help somebody else. So when I read Rula's book, I thought, if I don't make another movie, I just make this movie, this is worth doing because there's a serious problem over there, and whether an Arab child dies or an Israeli child, whoever kills a child is a murderer. And Jean Renoir said the problem with the world is everybody's got their reasons. And there's no reason good enough for any of this insanity that's going on over there. And so anyway, I don't know when I'll make another movie. I don't have a plan to do that. I just feel like painting. But this whole discourse about this particular subject also is a learning process. There's a new language that we have to develop, a post-political, post-left, post-right kind of possibility where we can talk about things in a humanistic way. And I think that there's something in Rula's book that taught me that. And there's something in her that taught me that, this kind of forgiveness that she had, not only for the different things that happened to her, but the kind of way she wrote about her mother. And so I learned a lot from that. And I don't know if I answered you.
No, you did. I actually would like to ask one more question from Rula. You wrote the script, so how was it like to collaborate? How was it for you to write a script for a film coming from literature? How involved was Julian in the script, in the way that the story was constructed?
As you can see, he's involved with everything. Honestly, it was very hard to live that life. It was extremely hard to live each step of that life. And so it wasn't really hard to write about it in a novel. Julian directed me like he directs his actors in writing the script. Well, it became like an interview. It didn't become like writing a script. I didn't know anything about writing a script, so we start recording the question that he was asking about after he read the book. And it seems like an interrogation scene, because he wanted to go so deep in each detail, even details that I left out of the book because I thought they were irrelevant or they were very, very personal, that I thought, you know what, I could, I mean, they matter to me, not to anybody else. But obviously they matter to the movie, to the honesty of, to what we consider authentic, what he considered very authentic. So we start this long interview, then we put it together in a first draft and second draft, and we continue writing the script even during the shooting of the movie. There's, when I was there, I did all kind of things. I thought that I will go there and will be watching to see if it's authentic or not. What I found myself doing is making deals with people so they can allow us to shoot in their houses. You know, we had mixed crew, but we arrived after Gaza, so if we have the location manager that was Israeli and we send him somewhere, the language that he spoke was not understood by the local communities. Maybe I shouldn't say this, but one day we sent him to this place to make a deal with a guy about the house where my mother was raped. You know, the house still there, exists the same way, he didn't touch it, and the guy was crazy. And actually I talked to him, we went in June, and he was very nice. We sent the location manager, the guy started taking pictures without any...
Without asking
permission. The guy took his gun and came out of the hill, and he said, sorry, the word. Okay, you can leave. Otherwise, I can shoot you, and they will not even put me in jail because I have a certificate saying that I'm crazy. This is the country. The guy was freaked out, jumped in the car, came back, said we should find another location. Me and Julian looked at each other. What do you mean? The best location ever? I mean, this location you can find in the movie of
whatever.
Great, I mean, but it's a great location, and not because great. It happened there, so it's more authentic. So we went 3 times back and forth to Haifa from Jerusalem, and that's not an easy, you know, it's like 300 kilometers. And we had to sit with a guy and with his wife, convince them, and he gave us back the location. Since that day, I understood that my job was to be the mediator you know,
Well, she did everything.
diplomat.
Dress the extras.
Dress the extras, whatever.
Oh.
But also, I find myself discovering details of the story. One day, I took one of the actors, who was Miral's boyfriend, in a tour in Old Jerusalem, so he can understand what does it mean to live as a political activist in the old city of Jerusalem. And I think one of the greatest lines of the movie and of the book, I find that there. I saw this guy. He was a political mentor for everybody in the old city when I was a teenager. And he was in jail for 17 years because he killed Israelis and he killed Palestinians. He killed some Palestinians because he thought that they were collaborators. And I was sitting with him, with this actor, and he was talking to us. And he told me, he said, you know, in prison, I understood that my fear was the fear of my prison, you know, my jailers. And I understood also that our real allies are not the United Nations or the Arab regime, but the Israeli civil society themselves. We need to reach out for them. They are the one that, with whom we have to talk one day, and we have to make peace one day. And he made an example. He said, you know, in 1982, when Israel invaded Lebanon, in the beginning, everybody was for that invasion. Then, body of Israeli soldiers start coming back. 400,000 Israelis went in the streets, and the government fall down. Shamir and Sharon has to quit, and Sharon was taken to the court because of what he did in Sabra Shatila. So we need to really convince the civil society of Israel that what's happening to us is insane and it's dangerous for them. I went back, I told Julian what happened. We put this in the movie. Not all of it, of course, you have to elaborate it. So the process never ended till the movie was finished. Even during the editing, you know, you still rewrite the script. And the fact that Julian was very generous and very open that he included me in each phase of the process.
Can I ask a question? And there are so many Middle Eastern actresses. So I would like one of you to expand on this choice of Freida as the Miral.
I'd like to answer that question.
Please.
First of all, what is it to be an actor? I mean, what is this? I mean, we have plenty of Palestinian actors in the film. Rula Jebreal is a Palestinian. Yasmin Al-Masri is a Palestinian. The fact is, Iyam Abbas is a Palestinian. The fact that a girl could come from India and could play a Palestinian seems to me to be an opportunity. When I saw Freida in Slumdog Millionaire, yes, I thought she looked like Rula. When I met Rula, I thought she was from India. So the notion of, or people might say, why is the movie in English? Why isn't it in Arabic? Why is Spartacus in English? I mean, why is Gladiator? He's the Spaniard, but isn't Russell Crowe from New Zealand originally? I mean, the thing is, it's a movie. It's the right language. It's for, and these kind of questions. Her performance is excellent. She worked. I mean, I've worked with Javier Bardem and with Matthew Almeric and with Benicio del Toro, and I can tell you that this girl is the real thing. And she broke her back. She was down to earth. She lived in the school. She lived in East Jerusalem. She never had an attitude. And I'll tell you, I was so convinced that, you know, there's a point system that gives benefits to production companies when they make movies. And if you have 18 points, you have to be under 18 points to be able to secure some kind of tax benefits. 3 points you get for the director. Well, I knew that Freida Pinto was supposed to play this role, and I said to Jerome Sadu, who owns Pathé, this is the person that has to play this role. And he said, Julian, I love you, but it's going to cost $2.5 million because the points don't add up, and this girl is from India. I said, listen, take my name off the marquee, give the directing credit to an Italian person, and I'll direct the movie anyway. And I was damn serious about it. they figured a better way to do that was to just make it a Indian co-production, which is what happened. So she did a great job, and I just think it's silly. I mean, people can be...
I only ask that because some people...
Yeah, people are stupid. I'm sorry to say this.
But maybe
I don't know
there's
why
some
God
questions
made
in-
everybody. Didn't make enough smart people in this world. There's too many stupid people in the world. So I think God was very perverse, and He filled the world up with a lot of stupid people, unfortunately.
Well, maybe we have some intelligent questions in the audience.
And even stupid questions would be good.
Please.
I don't know if my question's intelligent, but I'm very curious, Rula, the way you talked about your mother, your life, with so much passion and emotions, and you suffered, you've lived it, you wrote it. Why didn't you act as yourself? I mean, you're beautiful and...
Well, you know what? I think everybody has... Well, thank you very much for this. You know, I think everybody has specific talent for certain things. And I'm a writer. I'm a journalist. This is what I do. And I think, believe me, I'm not giving a compliment to Freida. I chose her with Julian. We saw her together. We saw the auditions that she did. And she was talking supposedly to my father. And I was looking at my blood. This girl in that audition became Miral. And honestly, he's a director, but he can't become a basketball player. I mean, we can't ask him that because, it's not his talent. But what I'm saying is, I think that not only she honored the story, she's a great, great actress. Her performance of the chart. And I think yes. I think they are attacking her, and honestly, to be frank with all of you, because of her role. The thing that nobody in certain place wants to see a Palestinian story. They don't want to hear. His lawyer, his divorce lawyer, told us something that really stayed in my head for the rest of the days. Because he said, the most disturbing thing in seeing this movie was to see Palestinians as a school,
to see Palestinian school, it's easy. It's
school
more difficult
uniform.
to hate a Palestinian child in a school uniform than somebody with a beard and a Kalashnikov.
Exactly. That means that guy is not ready today to see us as human beings, as teachers, as students, as little girls. That girl is attacked because of her. If she would have played an Afghani woman beaten up by a Taliban, they would have given her an Oscar today for the same role. But the fact that she's playing a Palestinian girl,
and she's actually pretty also.
And she's pretty, and she's being, she witnessed a demolition. She's in prison and she's tortured. That performance is what gets her these attacks. You will see the movie, all of you, and you will judge.
Well,
the lady over there, she has
excuse me, can I just say one more thing? It's also physically impossible for this girl to do any more than she did. For her and also to ask her to act in the movie, besides, excuse me.
The emotions were so real when you were talking. You
I was going to read you something.
so much, but your emotions.
No, thank you very much for this. And we thought about it, not where, your question come from somewhere. We thought about it, and not for Miral, for something else.
But then they say, then they would attack her for that too. I mean, you got to pick your battles.
No, but she's a great role model for Palestinian women. We're proud to have someone sitting there and being an Arab woman, and good luck.
Thank you very much. But you have to see also Iyam Abbas in this role. She's a great Palestinian
actor. I saw the movie, and I was a cinematographer with another movie where I shot Pomegranate Samir.
Yes.
She was actually the lead actress.
Yes.
And working with Yasmin and
Yasmin al-Masri was incredible. I mean, his performance deserved an Oscar nomination.
To be democratic, that lady over there has been raising...
Yes, please.
I don't know much about linguistics and subtitling and the crossover, but have you seen this movie subtitled in Arabic yet, or has it been subtitled?
Yes.
Do you have any control over how it's interpreted in English or the Italian?
No, the movie is in English.
No, but what you're saying, every translation, we are in charge of.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's part of the contract. I subtitled everything and controlled the dubbing for the Italian. He did it for the French. We controlled. The Arabic is our distributor, but he sent us everything, and he's very authentic. You know, the guy has a contract. He cannot.
Anybody can break a contract.
Yeah, but I mean, the story is very authentic. I don't know where he will go if he will break part of it.
Okay, let's try to get to more questions. Over there.
Please,
I have a question for Rula.
please.
You're a writer, so you can write these things, and in a sense it's very difficult, but it also must be very liberating. When you went back and you went to these locations and you spoke to these people, do you get the sense that any of the women that you spoke to there, like she said, found it as a role model, and maybe they will give them some impetus to tell their story also from their woman point of view, but not in just a regional way, but universals that this all touches on?
Well, you know what? I go back every year, and all the girls that graduated from my school, I think are, I mean, I'm intimidated when I see them. I see how strong they are and how, I mean, I feel sometimes weak, but then when I think about how much they do every day, because you know what? Let's be honest about it. I was also lucky, and I feel ashamed sometimes because I left and I don't live there anymore. But they live under that pressure every day. They have to take their kids to schools, they have to cross roads, they have to go on checkpoints where there are 2 or 3 children, and they have to go to teach because they want to continue working and they want to continue being independent. And when I talk to them, I feel, you know what, they are the one that still resist every day under that condition, and they are greater than me. And some of them write, some of them teach, some of them are only mothers. But I think the thing that Hind gave all of us is the fact that we are all convinced that we can make our own destiny. And we are all convinced that we will never give up. And I don't know this confidence where we had it from. I mean, when I arrived to Italy and I arrived to television, I was, you know, the smallest journalist, and I was black, I was Muslim, I was a woman. And, you know, men in Italy are not really easy in a way. They are really womanizers. And we used to work in this TV channel, and I remember one night they kidnapped an Italian worker in Iraq. We discovered that he was not really a worker, he was something else. But then the director was off, and his vice director was there, and he was totally drunk. I remember. We went to him, and the guy didn't want to give this news. And I said, well, what are you talking about? He said, well, there's a movie playing. We can't interrupt the movie. So, sorry, man, fuck the movie. I mean, what do you mean? We need to bring this news. Me and another 3 girls, and I remember one of the women said, anyway, he's drunk. Let's close him in his room, newsroom. And we did. We closed him in his clothes, and then we went to the newsroom, interrupted the movie, and we gave like an extraordinary, like, how you say this? Exactly. And we said, you know, something happened very serious in Iraq. For the first time, there was a kidnap, and the guy is Italian. There was 4, actually we discovered that it's not even 1. There were 4 guys. The shares, the shares?
Yeah.
The shares went up, so up in my channel. It was a small channel. We used to make like 6-7%. We went to 25%. The guy the next day went to the owner and said, well, if these girls did this to me, they should be fired. The guy said, well, you should actually go. So I don't know where I got this confidence, but I feel that Hind made us all feel that we can do anything through education. So
I will tell you a story about Rula, which is a true story. You remember there was a bomb that went off in Madrid in the train station? Well, after that, all the signs basically led that there was going to be a terrorist attack in Rome. And Berlusconi was very, very preoccupied about this, and he asked 20 Muslim journalists and thinkers to come over to his office. And they went there. And at this meeting, everybody was asked, how do you think we can avoid this? And at the meeting, Rula said to him, you should go on television and you should say that you're against the war. And he said, with who? Me, she said. And when should we do this? Immediately. The following day, they did that. It was on a Friday. They taped it, and at the White House, they have all of the information about what everybody does that's going to come there, because he had an appointment with George Bush on Monday. Berlusconi flew to Washington, and George Bush didn't see him. He came out on television, said he was against the war. They did not have a terrorist attack in Rome. And that was the first interview that she did with Berlusconi, but that's a true story. Anybody have a question? Yes, dear.
My question is also for Rula. I'm hoping you can talk about what you might see as the relationship between your role as an Arab journalist, speaking to the Western world as a journalist, and your role as an author, representing the Arab world, if indeed you see a relationship between those two things, and how that role might carry out in your future work as an author.
Well, I worked really in Italy, and I worked also in the Arab world. I made a political TV show in Cairo. I made one season, and I have to close it, of course, as you can imagine. In Italy, I worked. I read the news for a while, and then I thought, any person can read the news. I thought that I had notion, and I knew so much about foreign affairs, and I had a political TV show every morning about that. So I interviewed everybody, and it was called Omnibus. It was a hard talk. And everybody was happy because they thought, cute girl interviewing people, she would be nice. And they had no idea that. And I remember my crew, they give you this thing in the ear, and usually you understand if your crew is following you, that means that you are not boring. And I would hear the cameraman saying, okay, we're ready for the attack, or something like that. And saying, oh God, he's now in a trap, or something. Simply, I was asking questions that nobody was asking about corruption or mafia or about the reason to go in the Iraqi war, the real reasons, and where are the proofs, and twist things around or if they torture people, the head of the Secret Service in Egypt, and I was asking, do you torture people in prison? And he was shocked. The guy said, we don't do the kind of things. I said, well, I have something on YouTube where the guy said that he was tortured in Aswan, so let's see this. And so people were confused about this style. I don't know, maybe, I lived in Palestine, and I felt that after a while you are not scared anymore. I saw kids in television, when they throw the gas on them. They carry it after a while, they throw it back. After a while you are not intimidated anymore, you are not scared, you don't care. Because you become immune. I had this with my interviewing style. What I found out that Western world does not want to know certain facts. I mean, when I thought that Arab news were very made in as a propaganda system or pro-government. And I thought Europe is like a place where you have more freedom. It's true for certain things. I mean, my channel was great. They gave me total freedom. Even every day we received people complaining, phone calls or insults. I was insulted publicly. Like a minister called me a bronze woman or all kind of things. I thought, what? It's a compliment. If that's the worst thing, it's a compliment. When I came here, I was shocked. I opened Fox News. And I was thinking, where I am? What is a regime here? I mean, what happened to this country? And when I looked at the rates, I was even more terrified. Then when I looked at what CNN started doing so they can take rates, I started becoming really frightened because I thought, what kind of news that the public opinion is offered in this country? What kind of news? That means that when there's somebody that wants to build a mosque here, or they want to make a march, manifestation pro-Palestine, that means that from here to the next generation, we will have a nation built on no knowledge, and we'll have a bunch of ignorant running this country. A bunch of ignorant that will think that Russia is next door, and they think that, I don't know, probably they will think that, with all respect, that the president of Palestine is somebody from Hamas. What I'm saying is this is so dangerous for this country. It's not dangerous for the rest of the world. Actually, China is smiling at us. It's like, you know what, keep them like this. God bless them. But it's so dangerous for this country because they will wake up one day and they will find themselves in a bubble, and they have no notion about what's going on, not only in the Middle East, in Brazil, or in China, in Russia. They have no idea. And how you can deal with this. This is even threatening to the national security. And when my daughter is 14, her name is Miral, she goes to school. And she comes back every day saying things that look at her, and I try to explain to her, I said, kids in my school say these kind of things. Say that all Palestinians are terrorists, and say that women in the Arab world are all with a veil, and these kind of cliches. And you hear these publicly in television. You always find two men discussing with each other, and a beautiful blonde woman sitting like, and I don't understand. I mean, I'm supposed to come from an Arab country that has no freedom of expression, but what happened here? I mean, something has to change.
Over here, this lady.
Hi, Rula, thank you for your work. I'm curious what you're working on next, and Julian, question for you. I loved Before Night Falls. I was loving the movie, and at the end, I totally loved it even more when you had a Fairuz song. So I've been wondering for years what made you decide to include a Fairuz song. So,
We should start with Fairuz.
Well, this is the melting pot.
Yes.
And I had a couple of other choices. Johnny Thunder singing You Can't Put Your Arms Around a Memory, or Bullet in Yeva singing something. Anyway, you just put the music on, look at the images, and it's amazing how the music colors a scene. And when you see this film, Laurie Anderson played some violin music that sounds like it's being played backwards, and there's a kind of high-pitched, uncomfortable, sweet thread that becomes a leitmotif in a way, because I play it at a few different moments, and it seems like it's this kind of the consistency of dissatisfaction or impossibility, and it's kind of heartbreaking. And obviously music is super important.
And you composed the music for your film, Miral, or you actually did the music?
I do make music and work with people. Even when I did Before Night Falls, I worked with Carter Burwell, or I'm the music supervisor on all of the. I made a record once, but it was very poorly reviewed. David Bowie actually played it for somebody and didn't say that I was the author. And the guy said, well, that's great. He said, well, Julian Schnabel, oh man, that's terrible. So you can't do too many things. Does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, I'm working actually in a book, and that will be my fourth book, finally. And it's about the relationship between media and power, and how media took over. And we have media, how power took over, and today the real leader, in a way, that determined the agenda, the public interest, whatever, is not anymore Obama, but Rupert Murdoch. So that's the theme of my next book. I just wanted to read something. It's real short. I think, sorry, this lady was.
Actually, it's funny. Were you going to read something on your?
I want to read something on this phone. Okay, and what I wanted to read is, I have a lot, I'm very optimistic about some things. I see we've had a lot of attacks because of this movie, and can you stop doing that, please, sweetheart? It's driving me crazy. Okay, excuse me. We have to entertain the troops here. Okay, we've been attacked in the most stupid kind of ways. And there have been reviews, and basically it is there's a preconception about what this movie is supposed to be about, and people just want to dismiss that. And then on the other hand, we have people that are writing, and there's going to be a really interesting debate, which is because you've got people talking about the same thing, and it's so radically, you can't imagine that they're talking about the same thing because the opinions are so different. But I just wanted to read something here that Erwin Kula, who is a rabbi, wrote after seeing the movie. And I just feel like after all of this, and all of these people that we are complaining about in this country, I just want to read what Erwin had to say, because I liked what he had to say. Wonderful meeting you and talking with you yesterday. Thank you for your extraordinary warmth and hospitality. That's what I wanted. No, I'm not kidding. No, okay. I saw Miral late this afternoon. The film is beautiful and so serious. I cried, was horrified, sad, angry, inspired, uncomfortable, ashamed, weary, and strangely hopeful. Much to talk about. I think most important thing, and I'm speaking as a teacher, religious leader, not artist, filmmaker, so it could be all wrong, is for you to have a sense of the range of critique and the sort of responses you have to actually help people understand what Miral means to you and your hopes. I brought two rabbis, good friends, both really smart ones, who work with the establishment leadership of American Jewry, one who works in Tribeca with the completely disaffected. And then he thanked me for giving his daughter a book. And then we showed the movie at the Council for Foreign Affairs, and this man wrote something, and he said, and he wrote, "The Sabbath begins in moments, but the day can't end without telling you and Rula that last night was transforming. Maybe it was seeing the film for a second time. Maybe it was meeting and hearing Rula, who is awe-inspiring, wise, so profoundly evolved, and so filled with fierce grace, hopeful spirit, and magical inner and outer beauty. Maybe it was watching the film with a group and seeing the different reactions. Maybe it was knowing peace negotiations have foundered yet again, which means more violence to come. Maybe it was hearing Doron's question, which left me shaken with sadness and fear. Whatever it was, my mind, heart, and spirit have been exploding all day with the possibilities. Miral has to alter consciousness and begin transforming relationships. Miral is far more than an amazing, artistic, remarkable film. It is a new form of peacemaking. We need to talk. I am with you. Shabbat Shalom." That is what I want to hear. I want to hear her. I want to hear Palestinian people that come up to me and say, you know, I feel like you did more for us than the United Nations and all the Arab regimes, which people have said to me. And I want to hear Jewish people look at Palestinian people as human beings and realize that that's fine. Nobody wins. Everybody's a loser over there with this situation the way it is. And it doesn't just stop over there, because this has, you know, when the Chinese decide they want to cash in their dollars and the United States can't support Israel anymore, and they want to blow Israel off the face of the earth, there's going to be no moderate Islamists, and they're just going to be fanatics on both sides, and then things are really going to get bad. And for the and so I really think that we're just looking for a little bit of understanding, and that's what I felt in this book, and that's why I wanted to do this. And I'm going to turn the phone off. I'm sorry. I really am.
I think you had a question.
Yes, both of you will get a chance.
Well, one thing I'd like to say is that in events like this in the future, I think you should be reading from your own book, and I think your voice is wonderful. And it's no offense to you, Julian, but I do think you have it is your book, right? And I think you have a very expressive voice, very kind of emotional, and I'm just encouraging you to do that.
I think that
Thank you.
that's a good idea, and that will.
I didn't feel secure enough to do it, honestly, but
You should feel very secure.
please.
You should hear her read in Italian or in Arabic.
Yeah, I
On
actually
Hebrew.
read in Italian because I'm from
Yes.
Rulas. I have a question. Did you feel that actually you needed a figure, like a famous figure, to actually tell this story as a movie? Because, you know, the people will listen more than actually just, you know, listen to you as a woman, or just, you know.
No, we looked everywhere for.
Wait a minute. You mean why she got me here?
Yeah, no, the meaning that, you know, especially
I'm gonna fucking leave.
No, sometimes, like, you know, you need, you know, like,
Oh, sorry.
you know, you actually need someone to, because it's more, you know, powerful, because you're known as a director.
No, honestly, I didn't think that. Listen, I didn't think it would sell even, and then we ended up selling a lot and selling to 12 countries. They asked me to sell the rights of the book for an Italian company. I did. When I met Julian, I had to sign off because what I wrote in the contract is whatever script that will be done, I need to approve it because I didn't want my work to be compromised. When I met him in 2007, he was going to Cannes because of the diving bell, and I said, well, you do me a favor, tell me if this, I don't write scripts, I don't understand about movies, I write novels. Can you tell me if this script is good or not so I can decide if it's good, so I can approve it? And he was he said, well, I don't like most things that I read. So he read the script, he read the book. I remember him calling me from the airport of Madrid telling me, I'm on page 70, it's excellent, it's great. And then when he told me that he wants to do it, I thought it was great, but I didn't plan on that. Not like I studied, I thought, okay, I want an international great director.
I'll tell you one thing, nobody else could have made this movie. Nobody would be stupid enough to make this movie except me.
No, the reason why I ask is because, usually,
you know what?
I'm a woman cinematographer. So,
yes.
And I started 15 years ago.
Yes.
So no women was actually deeply, especially in Europe.
Yes.
Okay. So the reason why I ask is because, usually sometimes it's a woman, not because of Julian.
No, I didn't really, I didn't think
You better believe it. Excuse me. The reality is, you get a famous director to do it that's intelligent, you're going to get a bigger audience.
Yeah.
You're going to get somebody that doesn't know how to do it, that is unknown. You're going to end up on a TV station in Italy with a movie that you wouldn't be talking about right now. So let's get real. What did you want to ask? Really, and I'll tell you something. She couldn't read that from the book. And when she practices and can read it where she feels comfortable, she will. And I don't have to sit here and read for her. But I was very pleased to do that. But I don't need the job.
Excuse me, I just want to
Can this man finish his
Yes,
one
absolutely.
question?
We're going to take just a couple more questions because we want to make sure people have an opportunity to buy the book and get it signed by Rula if they like.
Good
so
idea.
just maybe a couple more questions, Shirin.
Please.
Well, you touched on a number of the pieces of my question, which I've read several books written by Palestinians and about humanizing Palestinians. None of them have been made into movies, and I think it's great that this one is. And I'm curious, one of my questions is how much of a political football will this turn out to be in the U.S., and also the fact that probably no one else could have made this movie. A New Yorker, a Jew, a well-known director, but somehow someone who nobody's going to yell at you if you're a self-hating Jew because you've created a persona. Excuse me. You've created a persona which that slides off of. You can do this. So this is a lot of interesting things coming together to create a film which I've not seen, but if it's as beautiful as one film of yours I saw, the Diving Bell, and it tells this story that humanizes Palestinians, will have a huge effect. That's dangerous, as you've already acknowledged. And I wonder how you feel about those things and about your ability to take on this project yourself, and also what the prospects are politically, where anything that humanizes the Palestinians, focus on you're a self-hating Jew, and on from there.
First of all, I think you answered your own question in a way because I don't think I am a self-hating Jew. I don't know that, I don't know that. I was called a dead ender by somebody the other day because my children are not Jewish. Or, they actually are, but the two women I was married to were not Jewish. I didn't know what a dead ender was. I said, and everybody wanted to attack the man for calling me that. But I said, did you like her book? And he said, yes. I said, well, we already won. You don't have to like me. And my feeling about this was something that needed to be done. She made an excellent work. I fell in love with her through reading this, through seeing how honest and so how confrontational and how and bold she was. And I thought she could have done a lot of good in this country if she was talking on television at the time of, because she was attacked for saying that the Iraqi war was misguided. And but all that being said, I think there's a lot of love in the movie. There's a lot of love in the way the characters are portrayed. All I tried to do was to be authentic to her book. Does a Palestinian girl have a right to have a portrait painted? I tried to tell that story. It's not the inexhaustive story of the Middle East, it would be impossible to do that. There's a lot of other stories, but that's not necessarily what this one is. And if you're telling the story of Anne Frank, you wouldn't know what the hell was going on with some other girl that was living in another town somewhere. It was about that girl living in that attic with those people in Amsterdam. And that's the question. Is it okay to tell a Palestinian person's story? And I think that we have to examine that in ourselves. And if I hesitated when I met her, I had some knee-jerk reaction of some sort where she said, "Are you scared?" And I said, "Should I be?" I'd like to think that I don't have preconceptions about people or prejudices, and I have no, different things this will engender all sorts of discourse, but I think that we have to be in another kind of approach this in a post-political way, and obviously when Nelson Mandela came out of prison and he said that the word that he picked was forgiveness. He says, "I'm going to represent a South Africa, a white one or a black one." I think he had a lot of help from Paul Simon, from all sorts of different musicians, people raised. They did whatever they could to, and I think that one of the great things about being an artist is that you can make art, and it has it can have a healing effect on people, and I don't mind being attacked. Yes.
Rula, you said that you wrote the book because you wanted to be liberated. Did you achieve your goal? That you wanted to be free? You wanted to feel?
I wanted to be out of that prison, you mean? I didn't understand what was that prison until I left my country in a way, until I went to Italy, because it becomes physical and mental prison and emotional prison. But I am free today. I free myself every day from layers of things, but I think we are born free, and nothing, and even that prison inside of us, even living inside of that and being deep there, I see the girls that live with me in orphanage today in Jerusalem or West Bank or Ramallah, whatever, even under military occupation, they feel free because nothing can take that out, because mentally they are free. I had a lot of, in a way, harder work because I come from a very turbulent family, and I saw a lot of violence in a way, so I had to take that out of my system. But yes, I thought that I was free when I just arrived to Europe. I became more and more free when I became a mother, because I had a chance to relive my childhood and make peace with that side of myself. That was almost impossible. So my daughter Miral gave me that opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're okay being attacked. Rula, you mentioned earlier that that some people just don't want to hear the story, and that there are probably going to be people who preemptively disregard it and deny it. How is that impacting the actual the ability to produce the movie and to distribute it to ensure that it reaches its full potential, and that other people who probably should be seeing it, who need to be seeing it, do see it?
That's a very good question. And maybe, would you want to answer that?
Yeah. First of all, the person that financed this movie was a white Protestant who is from France, who he financed the Diving Bell and the Butterfly. He's an art collector. He's somebody that believed in my work and believed that it was a good thing to do. I read Rula's book to him and to his wife, and people that worked for him said, "Don't do it. You're going to lose money. It's whatever. It's going to be a pain in your neck." But that never stopped him from doing it. He loved making the film. He's proud of the film. And then, so I never had to go around and ask for money to do this. I said I wanted to do it. He did it. And I went there and I committed to doing it. I said I would do the work, so I went there and I did it. And then we've shown the movie at, like I said, we've shown it at the Venice Film Festival, the Toronto Film Festival, the London Film Festival, in Abu Dhabi, Qatar, Tunisia. We showed the movie in Ramallah to a theater that seats 400 seats of 500 people seeing it. I showed the movie to the mayor of Jerusalem, who said he would show the film in Jerusalem. Like I said, I showed it to the 92nd Street Y people who are going to show it there. We're doing this the only way that it can be done. And we're doing it in this room, reading to you and just talking like this. And we'll keep doing that. And Harvey Weinstein is the distributor of this movie. And I'm going to make sure that as many people see this as possible. And then it'll be on, we win no matter what, because it's beyond criticism. And it's something that you might like it, you may not, you might say, well, this, I don't like this, that. There's something in it that I think is vital, that exists. There's never been a film like it, certainly not by an American Jewish person. And if it, and as she was saying, it couldn't be made by a Muslim person from that part of the world never would have made this film. You're not going to see two girls kissing, a Jewish girl and a Muslim girl. There's a kind of prejudice that's shown on both sides. And the only time we ever had a disagreement about the making of this film was when she walked in and saw in one scene in the kitchen this actress dressed in black, all covered up, and she said, she would never be dressed like that. I said, I know, this is the funny part. And she was dressed like that because the Jewish girl who her son was involved with was coming over for dinner. And she says, I want Lisa to feel uncomfortable and I want her to leave him. So when she comes in, and the Jewish girl's played by my daughter, she comes in and she starts talking in Arabic, so Miral says, how to? She doesn't speak Arabic. And so she says, well, you translate for her in Arabic. Yes, back there.
Yeah, hi. I have a question. I wanted to know, how did the Palestinian media, Palestinian filmmakers and activists see that film? Because as you said, you see that there's Jewish and there's a lot of Israeli support somehow. So I wanted to know, were you did they block themselves from it? How did they look at it?
We had Israeli support. We didn't have any Israeli support in the sense we had Israeli crew. Mixed Palestinians and Israeli crew. But we didn't have any Israeli money. And honestly, the script somehow went to the IDF, the Israeli Defense Force, because we needed a prison. And the guy gave them the thing without telling us. They end up sending letters to Italy saying that we're making an anti-Israeli movie. So we find out this, and we noticed that because in the airport they treated us in a very tough way. But the Palestinians, they embraced it totally. They loved it. They showed it in Ramallah, in Jerusalem, in Nablus, and Jenin. Everybody loved each moment of the movie. Everybody. I saw the director of the film festival of Ramallah in Qatar, and he said that he would like to have a copy and show it more and more and more in each refugee camp. In a way, they show in the movie you see hope. You see a dream becoming true. You see people celebrating having country. You see people, yes, having a hard time, but never giving up. What you see is really how you can win in different ways, and how can you save yourself and your children. I think you see a lot of love. What he was talking about is true.
You got to see it. It's horrible to talk about something nobody's seen.
I think even some Israelis,
not fair to you.
Some Israelis that saw it, or Jewish people like what he read, that rabbi, they understand the honesty of it. They understand that it's not an act of accusation. It's simply a story that needs to be told.
Maybe you should sign some books. Children of Orna is an extraordinary movie about a woman who was in coma, and she was married to a Palestinian. After he died, she takes inheritance money and builds a theater school in Geneva. You see these 10-year-old Palestinian kids just in this play, and they're just brown.
Thank you. Who distributes this? I asked because there's a pretty tough this, the film, because there's a very big, how would I contact someone about it? It's the Ann Arbor Film Festival, it's a very large film festival.
I see her, if you click
Okay.
Just say whatever you want.
I'm Dana, by the way. Marhaba.
February 27th. See that?
Yeah, I mean, we had a guest until the end of January.
She dies. 10 years go by. Her son, who was filming 10 years later, comes it's the time of the revolt in Julian. Out of the 10 people, 10 kids, 6 of them are dead because they got in some kind of suicide bombing thing or shoot out in the mall. 2 were in jail. The other 2, one of them, that little boy that was sitting there, has a gun, a big giant machine gun in his hand. He leads the revolt, and he's being interviewed by the Jewish kid who filmed him, who was half Jewish, half Go ahead. We know he's going to be killed.
Ovdje Italijani kima, عايشة في فلسطين وكنساكنة بإيطاليا، تفتكروا الإيطالياني.
I didn't see that in that movie, and I wanted to show it, so I actually built the house.
So عايشة هون
And I knocked on it. And you see the
سنة, a year.
some of the people that were working on the movie said, well, you know, we only have this one house and not that many cameras, so why don't we use all the cameras on the house and then we can shoot the response of the people after. So this is the way that I make the movie. We shoot it. You're not going to get people looking like that if they don't see the house.
I can't wait to shoot that and close. Thank you very much.
Disturbing. And, you know, there are things that are very, very disturbing. Things that are very sweet. It's heartbreaking. And it's something that we need to open our hearts to. And it's not a pro-Palestinian movie. It is a Palestinian movie. Literally.
The problem will be